We're talking Tigers. We're talking about the Pallazzo Podcast. We're going to be talking about the start to the season, low run scoring environment, and more with my energetic friend, Michael Govier, joining us right after this. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Just tweeting out the link here so people can join us. Hopefully, you guys can jump in and live stream here. I'm Jeff Erickson. I'm here with Michael Govier from the Pallazzo Podcast with the great background there. I love that, Michael. Is that new? I don't think I've seen that one before.
Yeah, I updated a little bit here. We brought down some of the tone. Yellow was a little too bright, so we softened it to more of a maize. And, of course, I went to Michigan, so, yeah. Can't help myself.
My mom went to Michigan. Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah, that's right. You know, we have not done this show together. We did the football show together, but I did it with Scott Genstad. So I've been on the show once, but this is our first time being on the show together.
That's right. You did football with me. But yeah, my mom's from Detroit, went to Cody High School, went to Michigan. So she's a full-on Detroiter and Michigander there. So I had a lot of summers where I drove up from Indianapolis to Michigan and Detroit and all that. So good stuff. This is a Detroit-centric podcast. It was Miggy Day. We thought it was going to be Miggy Day. It wasn't. Got intentionally walked in the 8th inning. But I actually understood. It made sense at the time. Lefty on the mound, second and third. Hey, don't blame Candelario for grounding in the double play right before that there. If he gets a hit, if they already get the 2-0, 3-0 lead, if it's not a 1-0 game, I get it. Then you pitch to him. But the circumstances kind of dictated that.
Yeah, you know, you really think it was the decision of Boone to do that? Or, I mean, Boone's going to make all the calls. He's the manager. I get that. But I wonder who actually made the call on the Yankees side. I know they want to win the game. It's a tight game, too. It's 1-0 at that point before Meadows opened it up with a 2-run double, which was fantastic. So I get it. It just seemed like the last at-bat prior, though, with Jordan Montgomery, he didn't really challenge Miggy either. I found that to be more offensive because there was a lot of change-ups and breaking balls. He didn't really challenge him until that last fastball, which was up, and Miggy just kind of half-whiffed at it.
Yeah. You know, I mean, no one wants to give up a milestone hit, I don't think. You don't want to be you don't want to go full Eric Shao and sit on the mound while they do a ceremony, but at the same time, no one really wants to be there. Or Steve Traxel sulking after McGuire hits his thing. So you're going tomorrow night. I am. So you benefit from this. I'm so excited for you. I hope it happens.
Me too. I took a shot in the dark. I had tickets offered to me. Shout out to Dave Chauvin, some other guys who are local here, also play at NFBC. They're big-time fantasy baseball dudes themselves. And I passed it up because I had a lot of things going on today. And now I lucked out. I guess it was a prescient decision because I'm definitely hoping. It's Friday night. Beautiful evening. It's going to be in the 80s here this weekend, Jeff. So we're looking at ridiculous weather for late April.
Springtime has come to Detroit. I like it. After starting the week with snow. I mean, that's that was Monday. Yeah. You know what? I used to live in Chicago, and I remember April being the wide spectrum of weather. And Detroit, it's got to be even worse. Same with Minneapolis. You get that tease in March. You get I talk about this all the time. You get those 2 days where it's 55 or 60. You're like, all right, spring's coming. Break out the shorts, and then you get like 30 days of clouds, no sun. It's 30, 20. Slush everywhere. It's the worst. So happy for you get that. And I have never been to a milestone game.
Me neither.
I've seen some feats, but I've never been to like a career milestone sort of game. I was at the
feat. Okay, that's interesting.
Fernando Tatis Sr.'s 2 grand slams in 1 inning game. I was there.
Oh, wow. That is a feat.
Yeah. I've seen things like that. I haven't been to no-hitter, though, either. I've been to plenty of games, but...
nothing for me other than the last game at Tiger Stadium, but that was more of like a closing ceremony. It was not sure, you could call it a milestone, but I wouldn't call it a milestone. So
yeah.
It's a marker.
That would be amazing to be there. See the 3,000 hit ceremony. That would be awesome.
What if this drags in? What if he doesn't? What if he goes 0 for the whole weekend and then they hit the road again and he does it on the road? Will they sit him and like give him some time off? Because I mean, truth be told, Jeff, once he gets this 3,000th hit, I'm going to be really curious to see how often he plays. Because I mean, all respect to the world to Miguel Cabrera, a legend, a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. But they're moving in a new direction, and he already did the ceremonial handing of the glove to Spencer Torkelson in spring training for first base. Yeah, so I'm going to be really curious to see how often he actually plays because, I mean, he's just not a good player anymore, frankly. He's not even an average player, really.
Yeah, unfortunately. We were hoping maybe he had the dead cat bounce that Joey Votto had last year, and instead it was Votto that did it, not him. And now Votto needs to do it again. But
he will. Just wait till the second half, right?
Right. We can, poor Votto. I feel bad for him just because I'm a Reds fan, and I feel bad
Is Votto a Hall of Famer? Do you think he is? Because his numbers don't quite get there, but he had some really great peak years.
He needs 2 more years like this last one. Mm-hmm. And I think if he gets that, then I think that conversation's a lot easier to have. I'm predisposed. He's my favorite current player. But you're probably right. He probably is not right now. So we'll see.
He probably gets in. I think he still gets in because he seems like a Hall of Famer. It's strange. It's a strange time, and the world's changing, and hits don't matter as much. Hey, Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame now. So if Harold Baines is in, Joey Votto should be in. We got
other issues. We just need to get like ex-Reds managers in the Veterans Committee, and we'll be fine. But
just grease it in.
I feel bad for Baines in a way. Well, I don't. He's fine. He's happy to be in the Hall of Fame. But everybody knows it's the Old Boys Network that got him in. And meanwhile,
looking at you, Tony La Russa. Right, looking at you, buddy.
Tony La Russa, the same guy that batted Lurie Garcia third today, for some reason.
He just can't endear himself to the public in any way, can he? Right?
No, it's short of winning the World Series. I think it's going to be very difficult. The thing is, he does like save puppies and things like that. He does do some good things. He's always been an animal rights guy. So I'll give him that.
He handled when Darryl Kyle passed away. I watched a documentary about that. He was a rock for that team. He's not a bad guy. I think he gives this image that he's rough and gruff, but underneath it all, inside the clubhouse, I think people really respect him and like him. Even the bigger gap that now he's getting close to 80 with the younger players, I think they like him in a way.
Well, I'm friends with 2 former Major League Baseball players, one of which played for him and loves him. Didn't love him at the time, but now speaks very highly of him. It's like, he had my best interest at heart, even though if I didn't realize it when I was a rookie coming up. So, that's Brendan Ryan, by the way. It's no state secret. I'm not like trying to hide it, but former Major League player, utility guy, basically. Briefly had a run as a starting shortstop. Best defensive player I've ever seen in person. I play softball with him, believe it or not, still.
Big game tonight.
Yeah, big game. Big game indeed. But he talks highly of Tony, so I think that's cool. Some other things we would talk about surrounding the Tigers, though. Michael Pinata made his debut of the 2020 debut. He was not a pinata. He was the opposite of that. Barely even had a pinprick. Looked pretty good out there. Now, not getting too many strikeouts, but the Yankees can't get out of their own way at the plate right now.
Yeah, Joey Gallows, a ticking clock that is winding down. I don't have any shares of Gallo. Not that I don't pick them all. I don't get them all right, but I don't ever see the value at this point with him. So I avoided him everywhere, and I'm not surprised by his start. But Michael Pinata, very exciting start here. I mean, Big Mike, came out there, and he'd been delayed with visa issues and other stuff, and he finally shows up, and he pitched pretty good, 32% CSW, 32% whiff rate. That's a pretty even number there. That's rock solid. It's not elite, but it shows me that he was fooling them enough, and the Yankees are a patient group, so if he can get the swings and misses, then that's going to be a big boost to that staff. So I'm all in on Panetta right now in terms of 15-teamers or deeper. Absolutely should be rostered. 12-teamers, I'm still going to wait a little bit to see.
Had him active in one of my 2 main event leagues. So nice. I was very happy with the result of that. Came at a perfect time for the Tigers, too, with both Mize and Manning hurt. Couldn't have been a more perfect timing for them. Yeah,
Manning, I was a huge Matt Manning fan 2 years ago. I thought he was the best of the 3 between him, Scooble, and Mize. And I'm like, he's going to be the dude. His father was Rich Manning, an NBA player, or was his uncle. I think it was his uncle. And there's a lot of athletic prowess, and he's a big dude. I thought he'd be imposing, but he cannot strike guys out. And that's the same problem for Casey Mize. And locally here, as much as we can gather from all the insiders around here, Casey Mize's elbow sprain it's not season ending, but it's not good either. So is it going to heal? Are they going to keep him out for 6 weeks to 2 months? I would be dropping Mize. I'm very dubious of Mize. That's my opinion here. And Manning, forget about it. He just doesn't strike out guys enough. And until he shows otherwise, I got other guys I'll be interested in rostering.
I agree. And I was going to ask you if he's a cut. Mize was a cut. I'd say for sure in a 12, and even it's hard to even roster on your active roster in a 12 anyhow, because the strikeouts haven't been there. It's kind of it's a projection to think that he could get the strikeouts. So you're thinking about the pedigree, you're thinking about maybe the stuff's there, but you haven't seen the strikeouts yet. So he was kind of borderline startable anyhow. So I agree. Yeah. It's a cut. So it goes.
Sad face.
Yep. There's other out there, and certainly with Manning, I agree as well. A couple other Tigers notes I wanted to talk about from this one here. Gregory Soto came up huge in this game. Got that out, and they got the play. They got out of the jam in the 8th, and then got the last 3 outs in the 9th. He's the closer. There was some concern about him being the guy. They named him as the closer, but it's Gregory Soto, walks everybody. He's good. He looks like he's locked in now.
Nobody commands more respect than Vlad Sedler, the legend, the Roto God himself. I love Vlad. Huge fan of Vlad. Good friend of mine. Well, a decent friend. I don't want to say that I'm that cool. I'm not that cool. But he was actually off Soto, and it kind of freaked me out a bit. I was wondering why it was, because locally it seemed like Soto had all the makings to put it together this year as the closer. And I know Michael Fulmer has lurked there, and he's going to be a free agent after this season. So people thought, hey, we're going to get the best of Michael Fulmer, and Michael Fulmer's velocity is up. That's promising. Yeah. But right now, what I learned about AJ Hinch, at least from the local writers and what you can gather here, is that he's very direct on who has a role and when they're going to pitch and when they're not.
God bless
Tyler Alexander, when Panetta had his issues, he told Tyler Alexander straight up, okay, right now we're going to use you, but when Panetta gets here, you're moving back, and that's just how it is. So he doesn't cause any issues in the clubhouse, I think, and I think that's a real positive, and it gives a bit of confidence to a guy like Soto. So he's a 2-pitch guy. It's not complicated, but he throws gas. He had a max velo of 100 today. That's what he does, and if he can fool him with the one breaker, then he's going to get a lot of saves this year. But, Fulmer will be in the mix, just like every closer position outside of Josh Hader. It's going to be tough to find one dude who's dominating the pen all season long. Soto will be the guy, but Fulmer will mix in, a save here and there.
Yeah. Michael Fulmer, the most picked up and dropped player in the NFBC last year. Jeff Zimmerman, according to Jeff Zimmerman.
Really?
I was part of that. Because remember, he was a starter, then he got hurt. He's a starter again, and he was good. Then he was just okay. We're going to move in the bullpen. He's going to close. Okay, pick him up again. He's not closing. We're going to drop him. We're going to pick him up again. Oh my God. Just going up and down with him.
I was on that wagon. I was on the bandwagon. I admit it freely.
Yeah, indeed. So one last Tiger thing. Austin Meadows got the double today. He's doing fine. He's hitting for average, but he's not hitting for power. He's doing like the opposite of what we expected from him, where he'd hit for power and, maybe take some walks, but, he'd hit for like 220. No, he's hitting 3-something, but no power so far.
Yeah. When Austin Meadows got picked up right before the season started, I was jumping for joy. I was so jacked up. It was a big moment because the Tigers just haven't made a lot of moves like that. And that seemed like a good trade. And everybody thinks the Rays are always swindling teams, but if you start to look at a last few of their trades, they're not exactly swindling people. The Blake Snell trade, I wouldn't exactly say that they won that one at all, for example. So when Austin Meadows showed up here, I was expecting a guy who would hopefully hit for a 270 or better average, but I thought he would take advantage of the gaps. And with him being a lefty, it's harder to hit home runs to right field than it is in left field. Left field is quite easy if you look at historically at Comerica Park. You can really take advantage of the left field area, but it's tougher as a lefty to be a 30 home run guy. So I was expecting a power reduction, but an improvement in doubles and triples through the gaps this season. So I'm still optimistic that the power will be there, but if you thought he was going to hit 25, 30, you might want to pull that back down to 20.
I think you do that with almost everybody right now. You pull back a little bit. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we do that, our first of a couple of reads here, brought to our folks at Better Edge. Bet against others with no fees involved. That's right. No pesky hidden fees to ruin your day. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace where there's no fee on each transaction. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace, and chances are it's legal in your state. We bring betting back to its social roots where you can like, comment, and challenge other users all within the app. Play without getting played at Better Edge. Go to betteredge.com. That's TTOREDGE.com to sign up today. Thanks to Better Edge for their sponsorship. All right. Couple of guys I want to talk about, just not a couple of guys, but I want to talk about, we mentioned Meadows, talked about dialing back power projections. We're dialing everybody back right now. The ball is not flying as far. This is caught everybody's attention. Jason Collette was on it last week, and Collette calls on RotoWire. Joe Sheehan wrote about it. Jeff Passan's writing about it now. Everybody's paying attention to it. Teams are hitting 230 as a whole across baseball. There's 0.90 home runs per team per game. It was 1.22 last year. Huge drop. It's affecting all of us right now.
It sure is. But you remember last April, too, the average was just as bad. I mean, the people were freaking out about the batting average across the league in the early part of the season. I think it was actually a little bit higher than this year, on 236-ish. And when the month ended, we still got to finish April here. But yeah, it is clear to me that the power has changed. The ball has changed. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist here. I'm not trying to rattle the cages unnecessarily, but who knows what version we're dealing with now. Something's been changed here because the ball is always the culprit, and we never get a clear answer from MLB, so it's confusing, and I'm always suspect of it. I read the article last year, which was put out, I think it was a Forbes? It was a big article about the ball and how there's confusion about what it is. And there's people keeping track of guys like your favorite, Hunter Green. I posted this in my Fantrax article, which I do every week, the Fantasy Baseball Confidential. I review the week before, and I look to the week ahead. And Hunter Green had pointed to the sky on 2 home runs, which was odd because the home runs are down. So what are you to make of all this? I mean, follow the numbers for now. But the big stat I take away from this was what I heard on the Mets broadcast this week. And this is where not just looking at box scores, but actually watching games for a little bit when you can help you, because they do dig into these nuggets that will be useful. And last Sunday was the first time that there was more steals than home runs for the entire day since 2017, 2018. It's been 4 years. So that's a telltale sign.
15 games, 14 homers that day. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I don't like it. I like the slugfest. I liked happy fun ball. I'll deal with that at least, but I hate taking away scoring. I think it's hard enough to hit. Hitting a baseball is like a 95 mile an hour pitched fastball is ridiculously hard. It is one of the hardest things to do in sports. And now they're making it harder. Now you don't even get the value of the ball carrying it. I think I saw with barrels, balls flying 7 feet shorter. It's just that's a lot.
That is noticeable. The only thing I'll say, and I'm sure you would agree, is that it's only April here and it's early in the season where offense will not be where it is in the summer. It's historically the ball flies farther in summertime and the weather. So let's see what happens, because last year it was really tough, and then they got rid of the gunk. And then maybe the ball changed. I don't know. It seems like it did. And then there was much more offense in the second half. So who can say? But we can only go off of what we have right now. I would adjust accordingly and try to maybe get some of the better bats that you can. If it's going to be like this for a while, you want to have an offensive edge, because it seems like pitching is... I said this preseason. I didn't predict the offense to be reduced at all. I just thought starting pitching depth was so deep this year in all my drafts. So that still seems to be the case right now.
Yeah, it is. James Anderson asked me this on the XM show yesterday. I'll ask you the question. Knowing what we know now, 2+ weeks into the season, what would you change? If you knew like the ball was going to behave like this, how would you change your draft?
That's a great question. Right on the spot, I will tell you that steals are up. So I wouldn't have made such a priority with some of the super steals guys, like an Alberto Mondesi, for example. I would have... Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is playing all the time, fairly regularly, and he's stealing bags. That's a guy I could have got...
game this week, yep.
Exactly. There's been several actually, double steals efforts by a lot of different players. And with the rosters also being beefier early on, because they're not making cuts until May 1st, which is something we already knew, so you could have made an adjustment for that, I grant you. But I think I want to focus more on the big boppers, because we always took power for granted. You listen to any podcast, any show about fantasy baseball, power is always there later. That's the thing you can always get later. But that seems to not only change now, but even last year a bit, it seemed to be changing a bit. And now I wish, if I did do it over, I would have took a guy Eloy Jimenez is hurt, for example, but a guy like him I might have bumped up a bit more. Yep. Somebody with tons of power. Franmil Reyes is a guy, I know he's struggling early on, but that's the kind of guy I would have bumped up more.
Yeah, I agree. And, even early, like Freddie Freeman slips to the end of the second round because he doesn't run. Rafael Devers slips to the second round because he doesn't run. It's the old Arenado problem. When Arenado was in cores, he was, 4 categories. He just didn't run. But do you really take him at 5 because you're passing up on steals? Yes, you do. I guess that's the answer there. James had the same answer, so it's funny. Guys, even the same person that you cited, Eloy Jimenez, is a perfect example of that. As someone that would benefit. Now, granted, like you said, he's hurt. He did play today. Franmil Reyes hit his first homer today. We're making progress there.
Woo! That Cleveland offense is dynamite. Yeah, dynamite offense over there, huh? Well, they've really changed the script there.
It's so funny that they just swept the White Sox. I didn't see that
Dallas
coming.
Keuchel. Oh, Dallas Keuchel. Yu Darvish and Dallas Keuchel so far, 2 absolute disaster zone starts that just destroyed ERAs and whips. But really hard to overcome a 9 earned run effort by Darvish, and then Keuchel giving up 7 earned himself. That's tough.
Yeah, and at least Darvish, you can counter that with 2 decent outings, some strikeouts here and there. Keuchel, you don't get that categories. I ran the Keuchel train last year, so I got cured of that.
You're running a lot of trains. You're running a lot of trains.
I play all the leagues. Yeah, there you go. But brutal. Just you get that outing, and it's so hard to recover from that. It takes a while, especially when every other pitcher is throwing shutouts. Daniel Lynch throwing a shutout.
He was terrible his first start. Yeah, Jordan Lyles. Oh boy! Shout out to Phil Dussault, the master.
Yes. So that one is just it's amazing. Just to see that there and seeing that we had 10 pitchers yesterday, went at least 5 innings, no runs allowed at all. And then today we saw Kansas City, Minnesota was another 1-0 game. Zach Greinke versus Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan has had 3 good starts so far.
Yeah, I feel really bad. I started to kind of see Joe Ryan towards the end of the draft season as a real value. I was late to the party on that, I admit freely, and now I'm filled with regret on Joe Ryan. I wish I had got more shares of him because I think he is exactly who a lot of people who knew about him purported him to be. And also, I want to mention this. Wander Franco, I think we were really wrong about Wander Franco as the guy who's not a fantasy. There was this reduction, right?
Yeah.
He's not a fantasy guy so much as a great real-life player.
I know it's early. 7,000 times, yeah.
Me too. And I regret that. I completely regret that now because what I'm seeing from him, I'm seeing the pop, even in cold weather nights at Wrigley Field. So I was wrong.
Yeah. The question with him is, we're so hyper-focused on speed. Is he going to run? He had sprint speed, but was he going to run? Was he going to steal? Because those are obviously two different things. He has 1 bag so far. He has 1 homer so far. He's hitting 392. Man, love that bat control.
Yes. He looks he's 21 still? I mean, he looks like a pro. He is such a veteran presence at such a young age. And when you see that, sometimes the eye test does tell you things. I know we're drowning in data, so we have plenty of data, but I look at him and I'm like, you know what? That guy is a top 20 player, hands down.
Yeah. Would you do anything different on the pitching side, knowing what we know now?
I don't think so. In the main event, I took 2 hitters right off the bat, and I don't regret that at all now because of all the available pitching.
You were drafting 13th, right?
14th. Yeah, I was 14th.
14th, yep. Next to Spore. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of chatter in that draft.
You had a lot. You had the fun kids table there. Who did you go with your 2 hitters?
Right off the bat, I went with Ozzie Albies, and then Mike Trout was still there when it came back around. Yeah. So I said, you know what, this guy, I know the injuries are always going to be there, and we're worried about the steal reduction. And of course, he got hit by a pitch, which is just, it just exploded the anti-Trouters. Hey, I told you so. Look at that. But he got hit by a pitch. It can happen to anyone. Relax, okay?
Back tomorrow too.
He's so I'm pleased with taking Albies and Trout. I wouldn't really change that at all because I knew that I took Darvish as my number 1. And then I had Freddie Peralta as my co-number 1. Peralta's been rough. That's been unfortunate. And he's pitching in Philadelphia tomorrow, which is not like they kind of gave him some more time off. I'm like, are we really going to Philadelphia to get Freddie Peralta right? I was hoping maybe they could get him in against Pittsburgh at home, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, bummer. That's absolutely a bummer. I have a little bit of Freddie Peralta in my life too, and used him in Tout Daily on Friday last week. That was not smart. So I could have gone. There's like 2 other aces, and I went with the wrong one. So shame on me.
It happens.
So it goes.
But I wouldn't change anything, really. I kind of like what I ended up doing, and nothing really stands out like, I wish I had done A or B. I don't think so in that draft, anyways.
Well, you're off to a good start. You're second in the league. You're top 100 so far. I mean, you've gotten off. You haven't spiked yourself, so it's a good start.
And I had Darvish. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, it's recoverable. You can recover from that.
That's true.
You have. I know you were tweeting about saves. I think you've got Barlow as one of your closers, but you picked up Daniel Bard, and that's been massive.
A total shout out to Greg Jewett and Reliever Recon. Those guys are doing great work over there. Daily charts. I fully credit them with leading me on to Bard there at the very end of spring training. So once I saw that they were liking him and they gave some reasons for that, he was still throwing hard. He throws nasty stuff. He's 36, I know. He seems like he's so old, and he had a rough 2021. But there was nobody that was going to really usurp him in that pen. That was the other thing, too. Who was around him to take away? Alex Colomé, he's just as old, and I just don't trust him as much. Robert Stevenson, your old pal from Cincinnati. Hey, Robert Stevenson's going to take over that job. That didn't happen.
There was like some January buzz on Stevenson. I remember that.
I drafted him once. Yeah. I drafted him once as a closer in one of my first drafts in January. I'm like, he's going to do it. It's finally going to happen. But Bard's the guy there, and I picked him up everywhere and drafted him everywhere late in drafts. So that has been even I'm surprised. 5 saves or so already. It's like, wow, what a gift already. That's a big boost. Yeah,
he and David Robertson, massive if you got one of those two. I have Robertson. I picked him up in one of my 2 mains and a couple other places. I was asleep on Robertson until about mid-March, and I saw, some positive reports coming out of Cubs camp, and just you could see that they didn't want to give the job to Rowan Wick. So that encouraged me to do that. Givens did get a save in Colorado, one of those saves, so it's still not done there, but I do like Robertson.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I thought it was Givens. I was completely wrong. I mean, it wasn't completely wrong. I just thought Givens would slide into that role because they paid him a good amount, $5 million salary. But Robertson's been the guy, and if he's healthy, he'll probably maintain that job. But will he stay healthy? That's always been the question mark.
Right.
With good old
Well, and
Mr.
Givens
Robertson.
is good. Sarah Sanchez was on last week, and we were talking about Givens and how his stuff is good and that. She was great. And makes me, and I did pick up Givens in one other league where I'm dying for saves. The other main, where I'm fighting I got both Kansas City relievers active this week. I've got Barlow and Stallman active. So yay, 2 saves. Those are my only 2 saves all year though.
Yeah. Barlow, I took as my first closer in the main event. And I really thought that Matheny was going to stick with him as his guy, but his velo was down, and Stallman has looked really good in spring training and coming into the season. And he's been given that opportunity, but just as I thought Stallman was the guy, then Barlow came in for the save the day after, and it's just going to be a back and forth affair. I thought Matheny was more of a one-take kind of guy, but what I learned also from Reliever Recon is that they say Matheny is just going to go with what he's feeling at the time. So I wish maybe I had gone elsewhere to a different bullpen and not locked in on Barlow as a closer that I could really rely on when there was other guys later like Robertson, which I couldn't have predicted either. But, that's the game you play. That's why people said take Josh Hader, take Liam Hendricks early. Those guys are always going to be closing, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, well, and where you were sitting, I mean, at pick 17, that's tough to commit to that. That's really tough. And you're not going to get them at 44.
Yep.
Yeah. Was Iglesias available? Was any of the other top closers available at the 3-4 spot for you?
Yeah, at 44, I believe I could have gotten Iglesias, but the closers were going really, really, really fast, and there was also a drop off for me. I liked Roselle Iglesias over the years, but he had been, him as well as anybody back with his time in the Reds. There were great moments, and then there was a ton of unreliable moments. So I also thought there was a gap between Iglesias and guys like Hendricks and Hader. So that's why I went in a different direction. I was like, all right, I'm going to lock down starting pitchers, and Xander Bogaerts, who I really thought this year he could have an MVP season. I know everyone's always been chasing that, and maybe I'm a fool, but the lineup is so good, and he's in his prime. So I'm not passing that down. I'm not saying that won't happen either, but that was my focus.
I'm fine with Bogaerts there. I'm totally fine with that. And he's been fine. And I know he had a double today against Romano to actually get the 1 RBI, I think, or one of the 2 RBIs there. But he's fine. He's just not going to run that much anymore.
Yeah, he's not. Actually, Iglesias, Clase, and Edwin Diaz all went right before that Bogarts pick at 44. So
okay, so you didn't even have a chance
choice
out at those guys. Yeah,
I could have had to roll this Chapman, but I passed on that.
Oh, I'm passing on. I passed on Chapman all season long. that was my fade. That was my closer fade, and he hasn't allowed any hits, but he's walked, or I think like maybe one hit, but he's walked a ton of guys. And that was the walks that scared me away with Chapman too. Plus, it's a walk year.
Yeah, after the constant frustration with him last year, it got really bad. It was boiling point, and they have a lot of arms they like in their pen, so I could see why you'd fade him. I still think they try to rely on him because they put a lot into him. They still want to try to get as many saves as possible as they can out of him, and right now it's shaky. It could go either way at this point. So if I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying that because I drafted and rolled this in a couple of the leagues thinking, all right, it's a little later, I can get him, and I still think that he can return a 30 save season quite easily. But he got right against my Tigers. Doesn't mean he's gonna stay right at all. So
yeah, exactly. I'm happy to be wrong about him. He won't be on my roster. Maybe I'll trade for him later on in like Tout Wars or something like that if I need it. But as I'm waiting for Presley to come back in that league, but otherwise, no. I'm happy to be without him this year.
I'm also happy to play the closer roulette game. And some people wanted to just avoid it by taking the elite players, but that's the work. That's part of the grind of a fantasy baseball season. I like doing that. I like going through the wires and making fab bids and trying to get the value. I think that's how you can usurp some opportunities away from other people and boost your points by making the right calls. You're not going to get them all right, but that's part of the fun, and I like doing that digging.
I do too. My problem, though, is I play in too many leagues. And that's a problem. That it's a me problem because I'm fully in control of that problem, by the way, too. And yet here we are. I've got like 17 to 20 leagues every year, and probably about 12 of them are fab leagues, not 10 of those on Sunday night. And it takes a certain amount of time to do it right. And when you have that many leagues, it's just impossible to do them all properly.
Yeah, well, I feel you there. I know exactly what you're talking about. The more people ask me to join, hey, let's do this. We want to do this. And you got to say no. You got to start saying no at a certain point because you're just going to hurt the integrity of the league and yourself.
Yeah. As the Pallazzo Podcast expands its broad reach, you're going to get asked more leagues. You're now showing up at the NFBC in Vegas. You made it to First Pitch Arizona. Your presence, you got a bigger footprint now.
It's pretty cool. I've loved most of it. I've learned so much from everybody. And, there's also people who don't like you, and they're going to be like, you know what, you don't know jack squat, and that's okay. Some people aren't. You're not going to please everybody. When I was a teacher, I used to say, hey, if I can get 75% of the room, I'll take it. So that's fine by me.
Yeah. And I think you get like 98% of the room, I imagine, right? With the exception of one commenter today, I think we're doing pretty good. But
yeah, Kent doesn't like me. I'm sorry, Kent. I'll do better. I need to come up with more of my own opinions, and I promise that I will continue that pursuit. Yeah, it's a guarantee.
All right, very good, very good. Quick note from our friends at Vivid Seats. Baseball is back. That's right. An entire glorious season, all 162 games. And with live events resuming, you can actually be there to catch all the action in person with Vivid Seats. Every backdoor slider, every round tripper, and every doubleheader can be experienced live. And with Vivid Seats rewards, you can start earning free tickets from your very first purchase. Just buy, collect stamps, and redeem. It's that easy. From behind the dugout to the upper level. Vivid Seats has you covered for all the games that matter to you. Pro tip. Buy tickets for your whole group, split the bill, and make progress towards your free ticket even faster. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Life happens live. I actually used it to go see the Dodgers-Reds game and see Hunter Green in person on Saturday. That was pretty awesome. So
that must have been amazing.
It was. 39 pitches, 100 miles an hour or more, and among his 80. It was totally worth it.
Yes, a bonkers. That guy's so exciting, and I can't believe he got called up too. That's been one of the great bonuses of this season is all these rookies that got an actual start right away. It's been a real boon, a real positive for the sport, I think.
Yeah, that's about, it does not apply to Pittsburgh with O'Neill Cruz, but otherwise, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's going to Pittsburgh. So.
Unfortunately. Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt, any of these struggling guys, are you worried about long-term, or for the most part, are you convinced that they're going to be who they're going to be eventually?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so early. I don't want to make any proclamations. it would just be unfair, I think. We know that Witt could strike out a lot. That was always part of the game. And Julio Rodriguez was still developing. So they gave him, he was crushing it in spring. So was Kyle Higashioka. He was crushing it in spring, and then that went away. So
yeah.
Cody Bellinger was terrible in spring, and now he looks like, oh, maybe he still is pretty good. What do you know? So it's so early here. It's April 21st, 2022. I would be patient and wait it out. But I think if I would rather have one or the other, Witt or Rodriguez, I think I'd still rather have Witt because the Mariners have playoff aspirations, and they might pull the plug on Rodriguez before the Royals will pull the plug on Witt, if you're looking at the context of the situation.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that for sure, especially because Witt, they kind of played that game last year. Do we call him up or not? Now they're kind of locked in. I think it's to go. Kyle Lewis is coming back at some point from the Mariners. They have an inflection point, which they have cover to send him down. Although I think you look at like exit velocity, you look at the stolen bases, there's little things with J-Rod that made me think we're going to be okay still.
Yeah, I totally believe in him as an elite talent. But if we're talking a ticking clock here this season in redraft, I'd probably have Witt over Rodriguez in redraft for this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Witt went at the time. Paul Sporen, right next to you, took him as the min pick, 4.1.
He did.
And then the next weekend he was going in the third round, so people had to top that up. But and same with J-Rod. I saw him go in the 40s at one point, which that blows my mind.
Yeah, that was, I think, a little too much of the hype train. And he's still a great player, but he's got to go through the motions of struggling a bit and figuring it all out before he can really achieve his apex.
Yep, I'd agree. Got some news and notes. Emilio Pagan got the save for the Twins today. Buying him as the new closer?
Absolutely. Now, this is where I'm going to shout out the Pallazzo Podcast Discord community. Shout out to you guys. I love you guys. We just had a discussion about this in the Discord. That Pagan, and before he got the save, 2 days ago, somebody said, we got A, B, C, or D. Who would you rather pick up? And I said that Pagan, between the four of these guys, it was a series of borderline closers that you might get saves, might not get saves. I said Pagan was the guy who was most likely to get a save because the other guys around him just didn't have the experience, and there might not be a trust that Baldelli would have in them. So I'm very excited about Pagan being that guy, and me and Eric Cross have him in our tag team league. We do a tag team league run by Maddie Wood, and I think I have to double check if we dropped it or not, but we were considering dropping Pagan on Sunday just because we had other closers. We actually had a plethora of riches there, so we said, hey, Pagan we can spare. But if you asked me 2 days ago, I can prove it to you now. I've got receipts, as they say, that Pagan is going to be the closer for now, and I'm glad that he got that opportunity.
Yeah, you've got support in the chat, too, so there you go. I like it there. Thank you, Michael. All right.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, he's one of our Discorders. Thank you, Michael. You're the man.
Nice. Like it a lot there. Tim Schuler and I co-run our main event teams, and we actually dropped Hector Neris before the Presley injury. So then we lost out on picking him back up. So it was beautiful. Just totally whipsnawed ourselves. It was awesome. But that happens too.
I've got serious closer crises in other teams. So yeah, I'm with you there.
That's the Barlow Stelmont team too. That's the 2 saves team. So it's even worse. We kept like Ken Giles, who was hurt, and now we've cut him. So
Seattle's a mess. See, I love Paul Sewald. I love Diego Castillo. That was one of the guys that Michael mentioned with Pagan. And I said I like Castillo's stuff more than Pagan's stuff, but Pagan's opportunities would be more viable. So
yeah, and meanwhile, I was on the Pagan train. Here we go with trains again. In San Diego, 2 years running. And it's just like, nope, not this year, not touching it. Because San Diego, he was still in the mix before the trade that he'd be part of San Diego's pen. I'm like, nope, not doing that again. Hey, I was right, but I wasn't. He's not part of the San Diego closing question, that's for sure. Robert Suarez, by the way, he's stabilized after that opening day disaster. He'll never close, but he's pitched well since then.
Yeah, how's that Nelson Lamette's going to be the closer thing working out? I don't think that's going to happen either.
Oh, I rostered him for a while, thinking he might have a viable role. And
so did I. I took a couple shots late, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Still rooting for him to be a viable pitcher. He still might be, but that one's settled. Good for Rogers. Good to see him finally be. He is the guy. He's just a really good pitcher, so I like seeing him get the role. San Francisco, Jake Mcgee, voila, did get a save. I guess the season began yesterday for Gabe Kapler. Remember his quote: "If the season begins today, Jake McGee is my closer." I guess it began yesterday.
I like that. McGee's got 2 saves on the year, and I still like Duvall better. I watched Duvall in the extra inning affair against the Mets in that doubleheader earlier this week. Woo! He got out of a jam with some nasty sliders, freezing people with the back door. I love Duvall, and I wasn't loving him until this moment. I have completely changed my tune. I want Duvall everywhere, and even though Mcgee will be like it'll be like the Fulmer situation, right? He'll get saves here and there, just like many other bullpens, but I'm all about Duvall now.
So Duvall created that jam himself, though, too. He hit a guy and walked another.
That's
and then
why
the
I
Mets
like
gave him an out. That was so bad. They sacrificed bunt to a guy that couldn't throw a strike.
It's old school Buck, man. He's got to do his old school thing.
Yeah, he does. He does. But that was terrible. But and they eventually won the game anyhow because Pete Alonso made an incredible stretch.
I had that screenshot for a few days.
Yeah,
his face looks so funny. Oh, that was great. Yeah, that was an exciting day of baseball, man.
You think it's
early?
Baseball.
It really was an early afternoon doubleheader on a weekday. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Well, and sometimes I hate it when 2 teams that both have good TV booths are playing each other because then you have to decide between which one. I like the Mets and I like the Giants crews.
Love Kype. Yeah, they're really good. And the calls now with the umpires doing the NFL-style challenge announcements, that made that moment where Alonso got the overturned call way more intense. It was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And that was great. By the way, Frankie Lindor off to a great start. Hit his 4th homer today. Year 2 in the Mets uniform, much different than year 1 so far.
He's back. Yeah, I think he's back now. I gave him some crap during that game, actually, because in the first inning, Cobb, and that's the other thing, Alex Cobb got hurt, had to leave that game. He struck him out on an inside corner fastball that he whiffed at. I'm like, oh, boy, he couldn't get around on that fastball, but then he made me eat my words because he was great the rest of that day.
Yeah, he was, and our friends Rick Wolf, Glenn Colton have always said one of their rules of engagement is go year 2 on the big contract guy, not year 1, not the year where you signed the big contract or the big trade or new location. Avoid that, especially with the guy it's his first big contract too, as the case was with Lindor.
That's smart. I like that.
Yeah, I've been more aware of that. I should say more cognizant of that going forward here. So I've got that going for us. Quick question from Michael. He wants to follow up. You called Pagan. What about Boston? What do you think? He follows up. Cora wants it to be Barnes, but I'm convinced it's going to be Robles. What say you?
Well, my actions state that I think it's going to be Whitlock, and I can't tell you how excited I was for him to get that first save against the Blue Jays the other day. It was the most exciting moment because one of the core strategies of a lot of my drafts was drafting Whitlock as the eventual closer. And I didn't think he would close right away. I've always said this. But eventually, they would just realize that this is where this guy needs to be. You can't trust Matt Barnes. Hansel Robles is a journeyman. He's been decent at times, but he's also been fallible. And I was really worried when Whitlock made that catch to get the out at first. He was covering first base, and it looked like he might have popped his knee, but he was okay, stayed in, finished the game. I'm saying it's Whitlock, but I can't give you a date. It'd be a lie. It'd be unfair of me to say. Yeah, it might.
Because he's starting Saturday.
Exactly. That's part of the problem here. But I mean, he'll probably go a couple innings, and he's an opener. He's a closer. He's a part-time starter. He's all over the place. So I guess if you want me to pick someone besides Whitlock, I might go Robles. I might go Robles. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I want to talk about your podcast and the song parodies you do and everything else, but quick, we got to play a couple ads from our Blue Wire sponsors. All right. Thank you for that. We are on the Blue Wire network and we're happy to do that there. So we always play a couple of their ads. So thanks for you listening. For those of you listening live, you didn't have to hear them. So, all right. Your presence is growing and growing. The Pallazzo Podcast is gaining all sorts of momentum and it's great. I love it. You've got a Patreon podcast where you do a lot of your song parodies. The latest being Hype Train. I love that one. It's great. I think we did a parody last time too. I had you on.
Hollywood Brown. Say goodbye to Hollywood.
That's right. You have a lot of fun doing that. I love how creative you are, and it's something different that everybody else does. I'm not sure there's a question there, but speak about your parodies.
Thank you very much, Jeff. You're very kind to me, and I appreciate that. You've always been a supporter, and you speak for yourself. You're a legend in this biz. So I love getting a chance to come on the show and have fun with this stuff too. I work at Fantrax, I write in articles here or there when I can. And my editor gave me a great compliment the other day, not to toot my own horn too much, but he said, I love how you inflect your personality in your writing. A lot of people take things very seriously. And this is, you should take it seriously. When there's money, Skrilla at stake, you want to make sure that you are getting the most out of every opportunity. I get that, but I also want to have fun, and people might think I don't know what I'm doing because I could be a bozo and I'm silly and I do these songs like you said. I loved a Hype Train was actually an idea from somebody in the Discord. Someone said you should do Hype Train to Night Train by Guns N' Roses. So I said, okay, let me get on that. So that's how that came to fruition. I don't just come up with them myself. A lot of times people give me an idea from Twitter or from the Discord, and I'll go to work and see if I can make it happen. And I just think it's fun. I love singing too. I always have. I think we talked about music a little bit last time we were on the show together. And I love music. I love all of that aspect. I love fantasy baseball. I love connecting with people. And you put all that together, I'm very fortunate and I'm very grateful. I will mention this, Jeff, because the last time I was on this show, somebody reached out to me and said how grateful they were that I mentioned it, that I had in recovery from opioid use, almost 5 years. And so I'm just going to remind people again that, hey, life can go on. There's a better way forward. And that's why I'm more grateful than ever because, my life wasn't always so great, but I figured it out and I'm very happy and healthy and really grateful to be where I am today. So just remember that if you're hearing this or watching this.
And I love hearing that too. I think that's fantastic. And had I heard Hype Train during Fabapalooza a few years back, I might not have bid 300 of my Fab dollars on Nicky Lopez. I would have learned from that there. But,
I don't know about that, but yeah, you might have at least thought about it for a minute.
Yeah. But I do love hearing success stories like that. I love that you're getting to know more of the people in the industry. It's a great industry. It's a community. I think that's the better word for it there. I've made my living doing this for the last 20 plus years, and I'm forever grateful for that. So I'm happy other people are getting to sharing that success too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I look to you as the model, and hopefully one day I could be sitting where you're sitting doing. I want to do this for a career. I love doing it. I love talking about it. If I didn't have anything to offer, I would walk away. But I think I have something to offer, and I'm going to keep grinding and see where it takes me. But I've met so many people. It's not an exaggeration. It's so true. So many people I have met through this, through Twitter, through going to Vegas, going to First Pitch, like Jeff mentioned. And, COVID delayed a lot of my initial start because I got my start in January 2020, right before COVID hit. So now we're making up for lost time, and I'm making so many connections. And that's why if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me, hit me up on Twitter at MJ Govier. I want to connect with you. I want to give that start to somebody else, or just be able to lift up anybody that I can who has something to offer, no matter what it is. I want to be able to do that, not because it's about me and my ego, but just because other people have done it for me, and I want to pay it forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I used to be the young guy in the industry. Now we see you and a bunch of other guys at First Pitch, at the NFBC.
I'm 41, man. I mean, slow down. I'm not that
50,
young.
So I still got you. But
we're not that far off.
Yeah. I thought you were in your 30s. I thought
No.
I got low 30s out of you. So that's
I'll
good.
be 42 in August, man. So here we go.
Good. Very good. I like that there. Still younger, half generation. Okay, fine. But anyways, go win your softball game. Thanks for joining me today. Double header for you tonight. I want to hear good things.
My big debut.
Where do you
New
play?
team. They want me to play third tonight because they need a third baseman. I'm brand new to this team. I'm a free agent off-season acquisition. So third's not my specialty. I admit that freely. It's a really terrifying position at softball.
Yeah. You're right there.
It's beyond the hot corner. It's like the frightening corner, but I'll do what I have to do. So.
All right. Very good. Well, good luck. Have some fun. And thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure.
My pleasure as well. Michael Govier, everybody. MJ Govier on Twitter. Pallazzo Podcast, Fantrax, lots of good places you can find him. You see it right there. Go, patronize his Patreon, and we'll revisit him in football season as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.